Hare Krishna, good evening. This evening we will discuss about the mind, how to control the mind. Krishna, in verse 6.5, Bhagavad Gita, which is on the screen, explains the importance of controlling the mind. In the next verse, he will explain how to control the mind. And then in the verse thereafter, he will give the result of someone who controls the mind. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Can you repeat? Udarat Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayat Atmeva Yatmana Bandhu Atmeva Ripo Atmana Udarat Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayat Atmeva Yatmano Bandhu Atmeva Ripo Atmana Udarat Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayat Atmeva Yatmano Bandhu Atmeva Ripo Atmana. Someone wants to repeat. Udaratmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet Atmeva Yatmano Bandhu Atmeva Ripo Atmana. Udarat Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet Atmeva Yatmano Bandhu Atmeva Ripo Atmana. Udarat Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet Atmeva Yatmano Bandhu Atmeva Ripo Atmana. Okay. Word for word translation. Udarat, one must deliver. Atmana, by the mind. Atmanam, the conditioned soul. Na, never. Atmanam, the conditioned soul. Avasadayat, put into degradation. Atma, mind. Eva, certainly. He, indeed. Atmana, of the conditioned soul. Bandhu, friend. Atma, mind. Eva, certainly. Ripu, enemy. Atmanaha, of the conditioned soul. Translation and commentary by Abhijit and Vindabhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul as his enemy as well. Please repeat. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Great purport. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is a central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nations. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature. And in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade himself. One should not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. And the best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he is used emphasizing this point, that this is that one must do it. It is also said in the Amrita Bindu Upanishad too. Manaiva manusyanam karanam bandhamaksayo bandhaya visaya sango muktyai nirvisayam manaha. For man, mind is a cause of bondage, and mind is a cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is a cause of bondage, and mind detached from sense objects is a cause of liberation. Therefore, the mind, which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, is the cause of supreme liberation. The verse once again, Udaret Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avastadiyat Atmeva Bandhu Atmeva Ripur Atmanam. One must live himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Om Ajnana Vimanasya Chanansana Salakaya Shakshvindritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Chichetanyamanupishtam Stavatam Yena Bhutale Svamarupakadamyam Dadanti Svam Padantikam. Vandeham Shiyo Shiyuda Padkamalam Shigam Vaishnavam Sham. Shri Upam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parichanasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagalita Shivishantam Vitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sinodina Bandhu Chupate Gopi Gopshakanta Radha Kanta Namaste. Tapta Kanchana Gavanti Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sutta Devi Pranam Hari Priya. Pankha Kalprabhashan Kripasan Vivsha Patnam Panabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sinyavadi Paskachari Desata Srila Prabhupada Ki. In the sixth chapter, Lord Krishna explains the yoga system. Yoga system means to control the mind. That it means what is going to control the mind. First realization one must have, or first understanding, we are not the mind. We are not the so-called thinking, feeling, willing. So if we are not the mind, what is controlling the mind? The mind is a part of the subtle body. We have a gross body made of Bhumi, Rapa, Nalavaya, Kama, Buddha, Vasham, that earth, air, ether, fire, water. These are the components of the gross body. But within the gross body, we have a subtle body. A subtle body which does not die if the gross body dies. It's subtle. And this subtle body, the time of leaving the body, is transported to the next body by the super soul in the heart. That was a process of transmigration of the soul. But the subtle body has three elements. What are the three elements of the subtle body? Manas, buddhi, and ahankara. That's manas is the mind. Buddhi is intelligence. And if the buddhi and the manas are affected by the modes of nature, it produces ahankara, false ego, a false identification with the body. So you have the mind. The mind is thinking, feeling, and willing. And intelligence is another part of the subtle body. So with intelligence, one must control the mind. That's very important. That's the beginning of spiritual life. Recognizing I'm not the mind. And I must control the mind. If the intelligence comes under control of the mind, that's conditioned. If the mind controls if the intelligence controls the mind, That's the beginning of spiritual life. So if the mind controls the intelligence, the mind is our enemy. But if with intelligence we control the mind, that's the beginning of the path of liberation. So how do I know that I'm controlled by the mind? What are the symptoms? Can someone tell me? What are the symptoms that I'm controlled by the mind? Yep.
I want to think about something, but you keep thinking about it, like should think about it. and then I end up doing something that I wasn't.
Mm-hmm. So why is the mind wandering from one thing to another? Why is it thinking about something? What happens in the mind that causes? What is the cause? Yeah.
Desire?
A desire, but it's the desire in itself, no. But desire creates two things: attachment and aversion. Raga, dvesha. Raga, dvesha. In 334 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, there are two obstacles on the path of devotional service. Two obstacles: attachment and aversions. Attachment and aversion means like and dislike. I like what gives pleasure to my body and my senses. And I don't want that what gives suffering to my mind and gives me pain. I don't want it. And we follow the mind. What feels good, I'm doing. What gives me pain, I don't want. And that's how the mind controls you. By this attachment and aversion. And that this attachment and aversion is born out of desire. Desire to enjoy. What enjoy? The body, the senses, not the soul. The soul has no satisfaction to it. That this sense gratification becomes boring. And by that we become ever more and more disturbed. We walk in the street, people walk in the street and they pass by a restaurant and they smell it. They all would be nice. And their mind brings them into the restaurant. I'm going to enjoy. So completely under control. That is conditioned. This is conditioned. But Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, we should not follow the mind, because the mind when we follow the mind in this attachment and aversion, the mind is our greatest enemy. So what's wrong with enjoying the senses and the body? What's wrong with it?
Temporary. What is wrong with the senses in the body?
Yeah, for enjoying the senses in the body.
They get fueled. They're temporary.
Dusprenanalenacha. Dusprenanalenacha. You know Sanskrit? No? Dusprenanalenacha. Avitam jnanam itina jnanina nityavarnam. Kamrupina kaunteya. Dusprenanalenacha. This lust of the senses is never satisfied. You ain't get satisfaction. Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones, the 70s. You ain't get satisfaction. You want always more and more. They have asked some people did a survey for billionaires, and they asked, what do you want? They all say the same. I have 1 billion, I want 2 billion. Never satisfied. It's all for nothing. It's for the body. And soon they have to leave the body. It's craziness, insane. The mind becomes your enemy. That for temporary pleasures of the body. And such a mind becomes very disturbed by all these desires. Never peace. Always wanting to enjoy the senses. And what happens when you try to enjoy the senses? How does it start? How does the mind become attracted to this enjoyment? What's the first step? No, that's further.
Meditation.
Dayate, meditation. Dayate visayapumsam. Dayate visayapumsam, meditation on the sense objects. That I want a new car, I want the last iPhone. You get the latest iPhone, and 2 years later, it's just a phone. Nothing new anymore. But now I want the latest. But Dayate Visyapunsam Sangham Te Shivajayate Sangha Sayate Kama Kam Kode Vijayate. You become attracted. And thus develops, I want to enjoy it. And then you get it. You have expectations, you get it. But then it doesn't really meet the expectations. And krodha comes, anger. From anger, Krishna says, you lose your memory. You lose your intelligence. It's all gone. The same with so-called relationships in this world. Boy and girl meet. I love you. 2 years later, I hate you. Going from one side to the other. That in the beginning, Krishna says the pleasure of the sense is nice. It's nice. But then a little later it becomes sour. And at the end it becomes poison. That's the uncontrolled mind. It makes you a fool in this world. And Krishna says, when your mind becomes attracted to all these things, it's your enemy. But you must make your mind your friend. How can we make the mind your friend? Someone knows? That's really for advanced, yes. But what does Krishna say in the next verse? Bandhu atmatmanastasya yanatma atmananchita anatmanas satrutve vartit tatmaiva satruvat. Krishna says, the mind is your greatest enemy but when it's uncontrolled and it is your best friend when it's controlled. That brings up the point, how am I going to control my mind? How can that happen? That
Knowledge, intelligence.
intelligence, that, well, good luck. That many times the lust in the mind overcomes the intelligence. It's stronger. But does Arjuna say about the mind to Krishna? Krishna says to Arjuna, Arjuna, you have to control the mind to performing yoga. Arjuna said to Krishna, this is nothing for me. Controlling the mind is like controlling the wind. You have a wind and you say, stop. You cannot, it's too strong. Arjuna said, this mind is obnoxious, very difficult to curb. It's chancellor, it's flickering, it's going from one side to another. Very difficult to control. And Arjuna says to Krishna, I cannot do it, Krishna. And Krishna answers to Arjuna and said, yes, you can do it with detachment and suitable practice. Two important words, detachment and suitable practice. So we must learn to endeavor to control the mind every moment. How to control the mind every moment? There is this man, he had a bottle. In the bottle was a jinn, a kind of spirit. And he opens the bottle and the jinn comes out and bows down for the man and said, I'm your servant. Just order me. I will do everything what you say, but if you don't engage me even for a moment, I will kill you. And the man immediately said, clean the kitchen. And the Jim was cleaning the kitchen and then was thinking, if he has finished what I'm going to say. He had finished and he said, now the bathroom. He was thinking what am I going to say to him if he has finished cleaning everything, because he's going to kill me. So when the jinn had done all the rooms, then he told the jinn, now you go outside. You see this tree there? You climb on the tree, you go to the top of the tree, you climb on the top of the tree, then you jump to the next tree, you come down. Then you go to the next tree, you go up again to the top, you jump to the next one, you come down. And like that, you do all the trees in the forest. And when you have finished, you start again. So that was the way how he got rid of this. But that's an important point. We must always control the mind. But how to control the mind? How do you control young children? Are there parents here? Or you have someone has children? How do you control young children? Toys. Engaging them. Yeah. if these young children, these toddlers, are not engaged properly, they do mischief. So you must always engage them. So the mind must always be engaged. Never listen to the mind. The mind will tell you, oh, that feels good, this, that. So many proposals of the mind. Don't listen. You are finished. You must engage the mind. Engage so that it's busy. That is that proverb that says, yeah, an empty mind is devil's workshop or something. That if you don't engage the mind will engage you in nonsense. And that's a fact. So therefore, Krishna says, be detached. Detached means don't follow this mind. Just all this proposals of the mind, let them there. They are very dangerous. Because the mind proposes you sense gratification. At least a polluted mind. But everyone's mind in this material world is polluted. Some are in goodness. That's another kind of pollution. Still pollution. But when we engage the mind, how should we engage the mind? To understand how to engage the mind, we must know who we are. We are not a body. We are a spirit soul, a part and parcel of Krishna. And the soul is a servant of Krishna. That's the reality. So the senses and the mind will become purified if we engage them in devotional service, if we connect the mind with the spiritual energy. The mind must come under spiritual energy to control it. And how do you bring the mind in contact with the spiritual energy? Krishna says, man mana, think of me, thinking of Krishna. That's the way. Therefore, we perform devotional service. We serve Krishna with our senses, with our mind, with our intelligence, everything. We engage in Krishna's service. That's external. But internal, man mana. With devotion, we think of Krishna. We fill the mind with devotion. And then the mind is automatically controlled. What are the benefits? It's controlled. While you think of Krishna, it's peaceful, the mind. And the mind becomes purified of the contamination of this attachment and aversion. Gradually, that diminishes this attachment and aversion. So therefore, we must always engage in devotional service. But what's the best practice? Arjuna says, Krishna says to Arjuna, yes, you can control the mind, Arjuna. You can. But with attachment and suitable practice. Suitable practice, Prabhupada translates. That's in the English version. Suitable practice. I'm not sure if it's translated as such in French, but that word suitable is very important. Because there's a suitable practice for devotional service for every age. And that's described in the Bhagavatam. And for this age, the suitable practice is the chanting of Krishna's names. Suitable means it's adapted to the situation. Adapted to the situation. So there is, and therefore Krishna, 5,000 years ago, appeared and he said, Man mandaba madbhakto machimam namaskare. So you think of me, then you become my devotee, you worship me. Okay. Then Krishna says, Sarvam pachyamam kamsam pacham tvam sarvapapam yomukrisya himachucha. Surrender unto me. Give up all other things and just do that. Manmana bhavamat bhakto. But in Kali Yuga, in this period, in this modern, so-called modern times, people will never surrender to anything, to anyone. It's not possible. So, what to do? Krishna decided to come again 5,000 years later, which is 500 years ago, as Sri Krishna Chaitanya in the form of his own devotee. And how one can become a devotee in this age? How one can control the mind in this age? Krishna explains it also in the Gita. He says, everyone should become a Mahatma. Mahatma Stamam Parta Devim Pratyashita. Because a Mahatma knows how to connect with the spiritual energy, how to connect his mind with the spiritual energy and his senses. And then in the next verse, Krishna says, Satatam Kirtayantamam. Kirtan, chanting of the holy names, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. It's there. So that is the best way, the easiest way. Just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That's the most potent way to control the mind. But then there are other methods to control the mind. And engage the mind in devotional service. That is hearing about Krishna, that worshipping the deities, that pujaris know it's quite an absorption when you worship the deities. No problem to control the mind. And this hearing about Krishna. And another way to control the mind is eating prasad, but not too much. Just what you need. It will purify. In the beginning, it's okay. But then you must just take what you need. Anyway, these are the most potent items of devotional service, but it's important that we constantly engage our mind in devotional service. It's not that I'm chanting my round and I'll finish. I can do every damn thing I want. No, you have to continue controlling your mind. And that always do everything for Krishna. Satatam always. So yes, without interruption. It's not easy with a contaminated mind because the mind wants to do something else. You start to chant Hare Krishna and the mind says, and what about that and that and that and that? But if we try to put our attention and love in the chanting, we will overcome this weakness of heart. That it's because many times we make offenses that the mind wanders. That we need the right motivation, trying to serve Krishna out of love. And that must be the most important desire. We may have many material desires, but that should be on the forefront always. And then the mind will become purified and spiritualized. That's the process of spiritualization of the mind. So engaging in devotional service spiritualizes the mind by thinking of Krishna and by hearing about Krishna. Suddenly we realize the transcendental knowledge and our buddhi becomes spiritualized. If the mind is spiritualized and the buddhi is spiritualized, what happens with the ahankar? It's not there anymore. We have finished the material subtle body. And we are acting again as a spirit soul. And thus Jivan Mukta. And when you attain Jivan Mukta, Krishna says in the next verse, Shitatmana Prashantasma Paramatma Samaita. If you have controlled the mind, Chitta Atmana, control the mind, then you become peaceful. And what happens? Paramatma Samaita. You always feel Krishna in your heart, Paramatma. And that is the goal of yoga. That's the highest yoga. One yogi, one would always think Krishna in his heart. But for us devotees, that's a stage, a very elevated stage, our Sakti. And after that stage, full love of Krishna develops, Bhava, Prema. I mentioned this just to be complete. No realization on the point. Any questions? Yes?
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. I was hearing a class from His Holiness Govinda Swami Maharaj about the controlling the mind. And he said that it's not possible to control the mind without love for Krishna.
Yeah.
It's not possible to have love for Krishna without the mercy of Mahaprabhu. And the way or one of the things to get the mercy of Mahaprabhu is to be Trinada Vishu Nishena.
Something more is needed.
Yeah. How my question is what can we do to develop this? What practice or practical things can we do to develop this humble position?
The point that you are missing in your explanation is that you must please the spiritual master. Follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Then Lord Chaitanya is pleased. And then Krishna's mercy is following. And then the mind will gradually become purified. But to get control over the mind, one must be out of the material contamination. one must come to Visuddha Sattva, transcendental platform. And when one is on the transcendental platform, if one chants Hare Krishna, love for Krishna develops, not before. And when one develops this love of Krishna and comes to bhava, normally you don't fall down. Prema is more sure. But that's very close to each other. Yes, if you are situated in love of God, your mind is under control. Then it will not be do any mischievous things. Good, something else? Yes.
Actually, I had a realization recently that my mind was getting very disturbed because I was lacking chastity to my guru. Like you said, that you have to, if your mind is set on following instructions of guru, then you can be peaceful. But then how do we reconcile with this idea that we have in our culture that you can have multiple gurus? You can have like Shiksha Guru, and Shiksha Guru is same level as Diksha Guru, but then what if Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru are saying different things, and how can you have peace of mind?
Yeah, that important to understand is that in our movement, the spiritual master is a representative of Srila Prabhupada. So we should try to understand Prabhupada's instructions. And the Shiksha and the Diksha Guru helps us to understand that if there are conflicts, you give priority to the Diksha Guru in clarifying Prabhupada's instructions. That in that way, contradictions can be solved. That's also the Vedic tradition, that Shiksha Gurus may say different things, but finally, the last word is the Diksha Guru. That is still a different position. They are equal in giving instructions. They are equal in being dear to Krishna, but their role is different. Diksha and Shiksha. Their role is different. The role they play. So the Diksha resolves contradictions between Shiksha Guru. So we must go to the Diksha Guru if there are contradictions and ask him to explain. But it's also our duty to check from whomever we hear, is that in line with what Prabhupada says? And if we think there is any doubt, we should ask questions. That's also very important. Because it's in our movement, like normally the guru is supposed to be in Uttamadhikar. But Prabhupada says, yeah, Madhyamadhikar can also guide disciples. But many gurus are also Kanishta, but near to Madhyam. So in that way, they have all their level of realization and they speak according to their realization. And we should be aware of that. No one in our movement is like Prabhupada. His disciples and his followers, there are many lamps, and some are bigger lamps and some smaller lamps. They are not all on the same level. But we can learn from everyone who is more advanced. We should recognize on what level we are and not on what level others are. And if there are contradictions, that's the role of the Diksha Guru. So we have to be very careful choosing a Diksha Guru. To be sure, it's quite elevated. Yeah. But anyway, we take shelter of Prabhupada. That's yeah. Any other question? To train the mind. Yeah.
You don't see machine. So keep that in classroom. So I have to go to read class, to make gardens, read class. And then I am reading, and automatically start singing. And then I'm thinking, no, after 3 times we need to see that, right? And it's automatically done. And then
Yeah, sure. Like I've been, I was a brahmachari for 10 years. Every morning I was Mangalarti before Radha Gopinath. What's the result? Now, if I want, I can think of Radha Gopinath. I see them in my mind. Because that's fixed in your mind. You have all these years. And that's a result of sadhana. That it's a great mercy. Thank you for bringing that. Good. Thank you very much. I hope it was useful. That I'm also trying my best, and if I make any errors, please forgive me. But I'm trying my best to do my service as nicely as possible. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Yeah.